The thing about the grief recovery is
Uh-huh.
they actually address the stages of grief and they don't ascribe to that. It's and she can explain that, or if you read the book, you'll understand it better.
Okay.
But they go through and they talk about the accidents and injuries, and they go all the way back to your first memories and
Wow.
identify things like maybe the loss of a dog or moving,
Yeah.
or the divorce of a parent, or there's all kinds of losses that we just kind of go on and we don't really we might
Right.
feel them, but we don't share because we think maybe it's not right or something. And it's great. It's a great program. It helped us a lot.
Cool. I'll look forward to that and look into it as well. So regarding estrangement, had you heard of estrangement before this awful thing happened to you? The estrangement?
Hmm. I looked up, I think I told you this. I looked up the word estrangement because I know what it means.
Right.
But it's like to treat like a stranger is like the Latin. I looked up the origin of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I'd heard of it, but our oldest daughter, I mean, I haven't really had any connection with her for 5 years. I could see it happening because our son that died was the peacemaker. And
Okay.
whenever, dad and I would do something, he'd go to them and he'd go, you know how mom and dad are, it'll be fine. Just come on, come over and hang
Right.
out with us. And then
So
they
they
would.
lost
And it
that
wouldn't
link.
work. Yes. So
Yeah.
there's a broken chain in our family. Um,
Okay.
and, he kind of gave us a hard time in high school and things. And so my husband and I did fight a lot. So
Yeah.
the other thing is like with estrangement, I look at like where is the way I would say it, where is my DNA in this? Um, the kids are upset for a reason, even though they may not be telling me the reason.
Right.
I've I've looked at it and not from a place of blame or shame, because I don't think that's really productive, but more of a place of ownership. Um, and we both, Paul and I, have gone to the kids and said, look, we understand there's something going on. We're not necessarily clear what it is. And, we apologize. We were kids. We were 26 years old raising kids. And,
Right.
and our kids are much older than that now. And it's like, I don't want to say it like we did the best we could, because it kind of seems like I'm taking that responsibility off. And it's like, so I present it more like, when I look back, I wouldn't do things the same way. I would do things
Yeah.
differently because I have more wisdom now. And
Sure.
I've gotten that by, going through things. And I
Right.
hadn't gone through that much at 26. So,
Agreed.
um, because I think sometimes at least with my kids, I've noticed, you know, they talk about blame, and I don't really know where that comes from because I don't blame them for things they did. They were kids.
Right.
And
I don't remember half the stuff they did when they were kids. So,
I don't remember it the way they remembered it. Some of the
right.
things come out, I'm like, I don't think that happened. There's a thing that called false memories too.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're in a victim mindset, it's easy to take a false memory and make it even bigger. And, because if they want to suffer, that's a victim mindset, right?
Right.
I mean, it could be seen that way. And so we kind of categorize it in two buckets. We have a victim mentality, which I go there. I'm like, the victim, I think somebody had talked about it. It was interesting because you and I, when we originally talked, we talked about the drama triangle.
Yeah.
And I heard another lady mention it, but she just mentioned it in passing
Ah,
and on your show. And it was, that you think of an inverted triangle. So the point is down, right?
right.
And that all of them are victim. So whether it's the hero, the persecutor, or the villain, they're all victim.
Right.
And the best thing to do is step out of that. And I work on that all the time because I have a tendency to want to put my cape on. If my daughter calls and she goes, Mom, this thing happened, what should I do? And okay, this is what you should do. Well, what I'm really doing is taking responsibility when I do that.
Right.
And it isn't my responsibility to give her advice. It's like, I don't know. What do you think? And then she
Right.
works it out on her own. And I go, wow, it sounds like you have it handled. Um, So that's a really big tool that we've learned along the way. And I use it every day. Every
Yeah.
day I'm like, my husband, I go, are you putting your cape on? And he's like, yes. Is that bad?
It's the mom thing, especially the mom thing. I mean, dads do it too, but it's especially, I think, a mom trait
Oh,
to
my
want to do
husband
that.
does it way more than you can ask him about
Does
that.
he? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but it's kind of normal. You want to do that,
Yeah.
but again, like you said, they're besides maybe not treating us the way we want to be treated, they're responsible adults. They're doing what they need to do. They're good people.
Yeah.
They're just maybe not treating us the way we would like. So I mean, at least we can take some solace in that we did a good job raising them as with values and things, because they're productive members of society. So I know that you mentioned that you didn't really want to do medication or anything because you weren't like depressed, you were grieving at the time. But for the estrangement part, did you seek out any professional help, just counseling or anything like that?
We've been going to counseling for quite a while. I mean, that's just something to me, that's part of self-care. I get my nails done every couple weeks. We go to the counselor every couple weeks. And we've done
Okay.
that for years
Oh,
to
okay.
help us because it gives, sometimes people think, well, they only go there if they're sick.
Right.
Um, and for me, or if they're struggling with something, for me, I look at it as part of just taking care of myself. My mind is important, and having that other perspective. Otherwise, I get caught in loops. Like my husband and I, before we used to go, we would get caught in a loop. The
Right.
fights would be exactly the same, and it would be a loop of no solution. And so we go through. Our gal's name is Julia, and I'll go, I'm telling Julia you said that. We kind of joke around. He's like, I'm telling Julia you said that. And I'm like, okay. So we
That's
kind of
funny.
have fun with it. Sometimes if we had with our son, our other son,
Yeah.
because we have the 5 kids. The oldest daughter's been estranged for about 5 years, 6 years, somewhere in there. And then the second child is Phil, who died. And
Hmm.
then we have Sam, who is, he's a 30-year-old man. He recently has pushed away from us. And it was an event. Him and my husband got into an argument,
Okay.
and he had done this before. Him and I got into an argument. And what I really learned was that we had not set healthy boundaries with him. And so as we started to set boundaries with him, he did not like the boundaries. And
Right.
then he uses it as I'm going to take my ball and go home. And you don't get to see me anymore. And you don't get to see my kids. And
Mm.
so the first day after this happened, we were very upset. And we called our counselor, and she's like, you guys, I've known you guys for 17, 18 years. Like, you guys are really good people. You're productive citizens, you're business owners. You take on a lot, and you've been through a lot. And I she personally, and she's met him before, and she thinks that he's being a little unreasonable, quite a bit unreasonable, actually.
Yeah.
And she's encouraging us, like, go make your life. You're done raising your
Right.
kids. They're not kids anymore. Go live your life. Stop giving your money to these adults, and go travel and go do some things for yourself that you want to do. And so my husband, you saw him earlier, he's excited about his lawnmower.
Yeah.
It was $3,000 to fix. He has a very nice lawnmower, and it
Right.
needed work, and he kept putting that off. And I said, we need to do some things for ourselves because we've earned it,
Yeah.
and we don't have to give our money away to, other adults that are like, hey, can you spot me this, or can you help me with that? Or,
Right.
and we did too much of that. We did too much of that.
Again, I think a lot of us do. Those who can anyway do, and sometimes even it's not even necessarily monetary or anything like that, but just like you were saying earlier, the trying to run things for them, trying to control what they're doing, or maybe not even control, but just advice with a real slant toward you really should do this, you know. But you
Well,
know, it's
especially if you see them making mistakes, or
yeah,
things that we perceive as mistakes, like, oh, that's going to hurt if they
right.
do it.
That's that's hard to just let that play out, you know.
Yeah,
But sometimes, I mean, sometimes you really can't help but intervene just because it's such a thing. But
yeah.
sometimes that's not necessarily a good thing.
Hmm.
So, but you know, again, no handbook, no rules. We weren't given a rule book when we started this parenting thing, so we're just doing the best we can. So,
Did I answer your question about the medication? Did that, or did I kind of go on a rabbit trail?
no, I think you did. I don't I believe you didn't do that, but you guys have had counseling for a long
Yes.
time. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting take. I haven't heard very many people that, at least that I've talked to, and they haven't mentioned it, that they've always done it as just like maintenance, which is a good point, because I mean, having that outside person that can help you through even silly things, um, would be very helpful, I would imagine.
Well, she's given us tools. I remember, I mean, this must have been when we first started going to her. It's called the wise mind.
Hmm.
And she drew two overlapping circles, right? And
Right,
she said, you have your logical mind and you have your emotional mind. And where the two cross over, if you push the circles over, there's that little space in there where they cross over.
right,
That's your wise mind. So if you operate completely from logic, obviously you're not going to have that connection with people that you might need in order for them to even want to hear what you have to say.
right,
If you operate from the emotional mind, most people would say, well, she's kind of a basket case. So the idea is to use both parts of us, the emotions, and look at the emotions and not necessarily let them drive the car and not necessarily let the logic drive the car, but we use both. Like sometimes, if I'm driving a car, I may be like, oh, I may be scared. There might be a car coming at me that could support me. But the
right,
rest of the time, I might be like, hey, it's raining. I should slow down. I don't need to go the speed limit in the rain.
right.
And so there's logic and emotion. And that was something early on that she gave us that I still use that. I'm like, oh, I'm being a little too much on the emotion or too much on the logic.
Yeah.
And I need to go into my wise mind because that's really
Mm.
where wisdom, happens. And so I always ask her for tools, because I have that proverbial toolbox that I'm filling.
Right.
And it isn't, because what happens is if you only, everything starts to, you look at everything like it's a nail and the only tool you have is a hammer, that's
Yeah.
not going to work out very well.
Right.
If you only have a hammer in your toolbox, everything's going to look like a nail. And so I'm always looking for, in this situation, I could, this tool would help me or that tool would help me.
Yeah.
We've also done a lot of work with PSI seminars. We haven't been involved in that over the years or for a long time, but we spent years of our life going through those programs. And they had a ranch in Northern California, and we went and did different things. And I've done. I just, I don't really see myself as like a seminar junkie, but whenever I feel like I kind of need a tune up, I'll
Hmm.
go and I'll do some kind of a personal growth program. And I
Well,
always take something away.
and there's so many resources available that people can do a lot of things from their home, you know, with the world of YouTube
Yeah,
and all the other different other platforms there are. Obviously, the people that run these things want you to go there or pay for them or whatever, but there's still a lot of information, snippets of information that would be very helpful. And I'm sure even your people that you're talking about have some of those things, you
sure.
know, out there, to help. So that's great advice. So, um, that's interesting. I like the wise mind thing.
Yeah.
Because trying to, it's kind of finding that balance between those two things, and stopping and thinking about it for a minute and trying to then deal with it. So
Yeah, the number one tool really is awareness, because the first thing I have to do is be aware of my own thinking
sure.
and my own, because I can see outside myself, but that's where a counselor can help you see, like, oh, I'm not even seeing that I do that.
Right.
Or I know that I kind of do that, but it's not a big deal. Um, so I think it's important to have become the observer of your mind.
So I want to thank Michelle for coming on the show today. Please stay tuned for the next episode coming up real soon. I'll have that out for you guys as soon as I can. In the meantime, I will have the link for the description for the book she mentioned and the friend that she mentioned. So take a look at that. Hopefully that's a good resource for you guys. And I hope you have a great day. And please try to remember to live beyond the pain.